Fox Corporation Chairman Rupert Murdoch, Democratic leaders Senator Chuck Schumer and Congressman Hakeem Jeffries are demanding that Fox stop, quote, spreading false election narratives, unquote. Jeffries spoke about this earlier today.
Perhaps it's time for America to be able to move past that big lie, and an important step would be those who know it was a big lie to publicly repudiate it.
This demand comes in the wake of those damning depositions and communications in Dominion's lawsuit against Fox, revealing the top hosts and executives knowingly aired and even spoke election lies on the network, knowing they were lies. Let's discuss with former Democratic South Carolina State Representative Bakari Sellers, along with the editor-in-chief of The Dispatch, Jonah Goldberg. We should note that Jonah was subpoenaed and deposed by Dominion in its lawsuit against Fox, and we're not going to ask him about that. He can't talk about it. But Jonah, let me start with you. You can't talk about your deposition, but you can talk about Rupert Murdoch's. You were with Fox for many years. Were you surprised by all the candor and admissions that, yes, we were spreading lies and we knew it was lies, but we did it because of money and ratings?
Yeah, I mean, there's this weird dichotomy between shock and surprise. I'm not really surprised, but Rupert Murdoch is a canny, smart player. And when he just baldly says this wasn't about red or blue, this was about green, talking about why he put Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, back on air because he's a big advertiser, you can almost hear his, Rupert's lawyers taking out the black tar heroin and tightening the cinch on their arms. I mean, like it's amazing that he would say some of these things and not try to obfuscate or dodge the question. And time again, both in the text messages and in the depositions, you have senior Fox executives just saying the quiet part out loud over and over again. And it's really compelling, even if there's, more that we need to know from the Dominion response, because, again, this is essentially a prosecutor's brief, but it's very hard not to see this as overwhelmingly persuasive on the thrust of it.
So, Bakari, let me play a little game with me. You'll like it. If MSNBC's chair admitted under oath that their hosts lied to their progressive viewers just for ratings about a topic that had caused a deadly riot at the Capitol against a Republican president, what do you think the response would be by Fox or by Republican members of Congress?
Oh, they would threaten to burn it completely down. I mean, I think that we all know what that response would be. And it's unique that you asked that question, and I think it's a very good question, because we now know that many of the hosts over at Fox News, the Tucker Carlsons, the Sean Hannitys, they get the leeway to say whatever they want to say, whether or not it has veracity or not. It's something that I would argue that Jake Tapper doesn't have. It's something I would argue that Joy Reid doesn't have, that you just don't have that leeway. And Jake, in your case specifically, you don't have that want to go out there and mislead viewers the way that we now know Fox News hosts and contributors did. And I think that's a fundamental problem. And I think that, and Jonah knows Rupert Murdoch better than I don't know him at all. He probably doesn't know me from a can of paint. But I would also go a step further and argue that Rupert Murdoch has not only tarnished and damaged his legacy, but he's also done a great deal of damage to democracy throughout the world, or democracies throughout the world, because these lies fundamentally erode what we believe our democracy to be. And the fact that he had his soldiers and lieutenants carrying it out should be a problem. But no, I don't believe any host at CNN or any host at MSNBC particularly can get away with the same things that Tucker and Sean get away with, particularly with these lies.
So, Jonah, there's now attention turning toward the Fox board of directors. One of its members, former Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan, is trying to defend his role behind the scenes in a new interview with Charlie Sykes. Take a listen.
If you are on the board of directors of a company that is pumping toxic sludge, racism, disinformation, and attacks on democracy, if you don't stand up now, then when?
I do. I have a responsibility to offer my opinion and perspective, and I do that, but I don't go out on TV and do it.
Right, I understand.
So I have a responsibility.
But do you?
I do.
So
I offer my perspective and my opinion often. I think Fox is a big part of the constellation of the conservative movement. It really is.
The solution or the problem?
Oh, no, I think it's going to have to be a part of the solution if we're going to solve the problem in the conservative movement.
What do you think, Jonah, is Fox, obviously they disagree. Is he part of the problem is Fox part of the problem or part of the solution when it comes to conservatives?
Yeah, I mean, I had this very conversation with Paul Ryan myself, full disclosure. He's a friend of mine. And I got to say, I disagree with Paul to a certain extent insofar as I think turning the ship around. Look, I was at Fox News for 12 years. I will still defend to this day a lot of the people in the news division who, look, we know from these filings, we're trying to push back on this, which is why Tucker and some people wanted to get them fired, is because they were fact checking the nonsense that was coming from the opinion side. And that was what was pissing off the executives. So, I mean, I think it's a more nuanced problem than a lot of people want it to be. At the same time, I think Paul is very sincere and honest when he says that he's counseled this from the get-go, that this stuff is poisonous to the Fox brand, it's poisonous to conservatism. I just think with the current leadership at Fox, particularly Susan Scott, the CEO, who basically just gave the booze and car keys to the fastest drivers, is not currently situated to make that transition. But yeah, if the conservative movement and the Republican Party can't turn Fox around and make it a constructive part of American discourse and democracy and journalism, then it's bad for the country, but it's also bad for conservatism. And I think Paul Ryan, at the end of the day, cares a lot. He's a party guy. He's a movement conservative. He cares about those causes and those institutions. I just think that the task cut out for him to institute reforms from within is Herculean.
Bakari, last thoughts?
No, I'm just admiring Jonah's very vivid analogies that he's using today. But I actually agree. I wholeheartedly agree with what Paul Ryan said, especially when it comes to the fact that if the conservative movement is going to change, if they're going to root out these cancers, then Fox is going to be a big part of that. The question I have, though, is can they do that under the leadership of Rupert Murdoch? Can they do that under their current leadership? I think that's the largest question after reading those depositions.
Bakari and Jonah, thanks so much. Appreciate both of you.